The first story that I'm gonna read here is gonna be a short story, which is basically my version of Star Wars Episode VIII, which is a short story that I came up with in January of 2016, more than 2 years ago. And it was surprisingly good. I didn't think it would be that good back then, but right now, after seeing the original movie and comparing it with this one that I came up with such a long time ago, I realized that it's definitely worth sharing, and this is something that Star Wars fans are going to love. So I decided to pick this one as the first one that I'm going to read in the YouTube channel, as if it was an audiobook. So it's gonna be, audiobook style. So let's begin. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, Star Wars, alternate episode 8, The New Jedis. After the destruction of the First Order's fearsome planetary weapon and the failures at obtaining Luke Skywalker's location, the Supreme Leader Snoke gathered his armies and ordered an all-out attack against the Resistance's planet. He brought back Khan, his first Dark Apprentice, and sent him with Kylo Ren to the War Zone. Their intention was destroying the Resistance completely. Their true mission was finding Skywalker's location, which was in the hands of the Resistance's leaders. Bent on finding their former master and destroying the ones that threatened the First Order, Kylo Ren and Darth Khan lead a final attack against the Resistance. In fear of the worst, General Leia sends Finn to Luke's location with a message, while she prepares herself and the others to escape as well. Their defeat seems imminent. Meanwhile, Luke Skywalker had begun to train a young Jedi apprentice at the Forgotten Island where she found him. Her name is Rey. Act 1. The New Jedis and the Birth of the First Order. Luke ends up training 3 new Jedis in his island. Rey is the first one that arrives. The First Order attacks the Resistance with its full force, and Finn is sent to tell Luke and Rey about it. Finn ends up being the second Jedi because Luke also sees potential in him, even if Rey has a stronger connection with the Force. Therefore, Luke asks Finn to join him and Rey in their Jedi training. The third Jedi is someone that Luke trained alongside Ben Solo and his other former apprentices several years ago. Thus, he's not new in the ways of the Force, but he's not a Jedi Master yet. This former apprentice, named Carl, is the last one to arrive at the small planet and the only one of the original trainees that knew where Luke was located without the secret map. He's also the most advanced of the 3 new Jedis at first, and he's the oldest one at 36. He chose to go to Luke's hideout because he could feel that the dark side of the Force was getting stronger, so he felt that he had to become a true Jedi Knight to help combat the First Order. Most of Luke's original group of trainees went their own ways after their training, like Carl did, but a few were recruited by a new dark side group known as the Knights of Ren. Although it wasn't known yet, this dark group was what gave birth to the First Order. Its unknown master and organizer was Snoke, and the new dark apprentices began their dark path there. Carl helps Luke with training Rey and Finn because he's an advanced apprentice already. He's also older than they are, but still much younger than Luke. Carl quickly notices that Rey's potential with the Force surpasses his and Finn's. Luke already knew this from the start, but he wasn't ready to accept it right away because it meant that she could be the daughter that he thought he had lost a long time ago. Basically, she's the only one at Luke's level, but she obviously needs lots of training to be able to reach her full potential. End of Act 1. Act 2. The Dark Apprentices. Leia sees Kylo Ren and realizes what her son has become. There is no chance for an actual parent-child face-to-face encounter between them, but she can tell that he might have the will to kill her, just as he did with Han. It is also clear that Kylo's training for the dark side with the Supreme Leader has been completed, so he's pretty close to Darth Vader's level now. Furthermore, the Resistance is defeated by Kylo and Kan's army of stormtroopers, but not completely destroyed. Leia manages to escape in time with her best pilot, Poe, and several others. They also take the map to Luke's location. They go to Luke's island and avoid being followed or tracked by the First Order. At last, it is fully revealed that Kylo wasn't Snoke's only apprentice, and the other previous apprentice is shown. Darth Khan isn't just another apprentice though. He's the second leader of the First Order, and he completed his training with Snoke long before Kylo did. This second Dark Jedi was also one of Luke's initial trainees, alongside Ben and Carl. In addition, he seems even worse than Kylo because his presence feels more evil than Ben's. Khan's origin is not revealed at first, and it is clear that he and Ben are not good friends, and there are some unknown differences between them, but they still work together to achieve their main objectives. Khan uses a cloak to cover the bottom half of his face like a ninja. He doesn't like using full masks or imitating previous Sith apprentices like Kylo does with Vader. He sees that as Ben's main weakness. Khan also believes that he will surpass all the previous masters of the dark side, including the Supreme Leader, and most importantly, he is the one that calls himself Darth Khan, but his true name is not Khan. Despite the destruction of the Resistance's headquarters, Snoke shows his anger at Kylo, at Khan, and at General Hux for their failure to get Luke Skywalker's location once more. And, even though their forces almost wiped out the whole Resistance, they still missed killing their general and some of their leaders, and they couldn't track the few that escaped. Khan blames a small order that Hux gave as what halted their success. Hux says he's a liar. Then Khan kills General Hux right there, using the Force and his dark violet lightsaber. In addition, Khan does not refer to Snoke as Supreme Leader, as Ben does. He just calls him Master Snoke, and he behaves as if he was the second one in charge of everything there. Kylo dislikes that about Khan because that makes him the third one in the scale of power, and it puts him below in command. It's clear that Ben doesn't like Khan, but it is not clear whether he's more powerful than Khan or not. It seems like they are equally powerful, but Khan's personality and his attitude feel stronger. After Hux's death, Snoke sends Khan and Kylo in a new mission to prove themselves worthy after the last failure. They have to hunt down and kill all of Luke's former apprentices and any deserters from the former Knights of Ren. All of those people are potential threats for the First Order and for Snoke because they can become powerful Jedis. Snoke senses that one of them will seek Luke Skywalker to become more powerful in the light side of the Force, so he also tells Kylo and Khan that they must find the one that already knows where Luke is and get the information out of him before killing him. Snoke also believes that Luke Skywalker must die to ensure that the First Order's victory will be guaranteed at the end. Khan and Kylo can't find anything about Luke from the others that participated in Luke's training with them years ago, and they kill all of them with ease. It's clear that Khan and Ben are on a level superior to the others, even if they all were trained by Luke in the past. However, Khan's older brother, Carl, is nowhere to be found, and they find plenty of evidence that shows that Carl continued his Jedi training on his own, even after Luke left them. Unfortunately, Carl told one person, his love interest, a woman, where he was going before he left. And Khan finds out about it from her using the Force. So now they finally know where Luke's island is located. End of Act 2. Act 3. Preparations and escape. After the Resistance's survivors arrive, Luke also gives advice to one of their pilots, Poe. Luke perceives that this man is strong with the Force too, so he can be their trump card if the battle is taken to the skies, just like Luke was when he destroyed the Death Star. Meanwhile, the other three continue their training, and both Rey and Finn show great improvement. They are getting closer and closer to Carl's level every day. Likewise, Carl's level is getting closer to Luke's, making him a true Jedi Knight and someone that can become the next Jedi Master. Snoke prepares an assault to kill Luke Skywalker and to destroy the island. However, Luke had already foreseen this, so before their arrival, he sends his sister and the rest of what remains of the Resistance to another safe location that he used before. The other location is at another small planet, which was difficult to spot on most maps. He also prepared a possible final assault against the First Order's headquarters, where Snoke is, with the help of General Leia and the other strategists that survived. Finally, the survivors of the Resistance leave the small planet and the island towards a new location. The last ones to leave the island were going to be the new Jedi apprentices. Luke warns Rey, Finn, and Carl that there are two powerful dark apprentices of the Force and one master in the opposite side of the balance. In other words, there are three powerful people that they will have to face and defeat to take down the First Order. It is also revealed that Luke is Rey's father, during a vision that both he and she have. And that begins to explain why the Force is so strong with her. Both he and she have sensed it through their Jedi connection with the Force and during the training. And even if they have no proof, they can feel the truth. However, neither one of them was brave enough to ask the other about this vision. Both of them fear that they could be wrong, so they don't mention it right away. Then Luke decides to stay at the island while everyone leaves. That way he will give them time to escape from the First Order's attack on the small planet. Rey, Finn, and Carl try to persuade him to go with them. They don't want to leave him behind. But his mind is already made up. Rey and Finn also believe that they may need to learn more to complete their training, but Luke thinks that all three of them are ready now. Furthermore, Luke also tells Carl and Finn, during the small moment when Rey isn't present, that Rey is the one who can defeat the Dark Master. Apparently at 100%, she's even more powerful than Luke. Therefore, if their mission at the First Order's headquarters ever takes place, they have to be Rey's bodyguards, and they must ensure that she makes it to the end, since she's the only one that can guarantee their victory against the Dark Master. Rey doesn't know anything about this though. Only Carl and Finn know it because Luke doesn't tell anyone else about it. Luke leaves Carl as the one in charge of the final Jedi assault that he prepared for Snoke's base, making Carl the new Jedi Master that Finn and Rey will go with. However, Carl doesn't know yet that his younger brother is Snoke's first apprentice, Darth Khan, and the second leader of the whole First Order. He was about to find out though. End of Act 3. Act 4. Prelude to the battle. The new Jedis are ready to leave in 4 small 2-seat ships. The 4th ship is for Chewie and Rey's robots. They are all in the air and they begin gaining more and more altitude as they prepare their small ships for a light-speed jump towards a new planet. They were almost ready to leave Luke's planet when the First Order's big ship arrives. after a light speed jump from a different location. Luke was waiting for their ship at the same spot where it landed. Kylo Ren and Darth Khan exit, and 200 men with brown cloaks follow them. The men make a very large circle around Luke, and both Khan and Kylo stay inside the circle with Luke. Then, all the men in the circle reveal and turn on their blue lightsabers. The situation definitely doesn't look good for Luke. The three good Jedis resist leaving when they notice this scenario from their ships, even though Luke made it clear to them that they had to leave right away. They see the beginning of what happens there, but they don't hear what the two that face Luke say, and they don't see the face of the second one, who looks just as powerful as Kylo Ren. Their small ships were also reaching the small planet's atmosphere, so they had to make a final decision about leaving or staying. Luke talks to Ben Solo and to Khan. Luke, neither of you listened to me back then, and now look at what you have become. Ben, the same can be said about you, Master Luke. Now that the years have passed you by, what has the light side of the Force given you? Nothing. It gave you nothing. You're even less now than what you were back then, when we believed that you were wise and powerful, even though you were not any of that. This is what the path of the light side of the Force offers. Peace of mind, but no great power, no conquests, no rewards, and no grand accomplishments by the time you're old as you are. Indeed, you were never meant to walk the dark side like us. That is why we have accomplished so much more in far less time. Soon, you will die and the galaxy will be at our feet while we are still young. For someone in such a dangerous situation, Luke still seemed very calm. Luke moved his face to the other side and looked straight at Darth Khan without blinking. Luke, is that what you think too, Carlos Stryker? Khan. Darth Khan is my name now. I wanted to be the most powerful Jedi of all. That was all I wanted and cared about, even then when I was just a child. You always knew that, but you could never teach me what I thought, Master Skywalker, because you yourself were still weak. You didn't seek the path of becoming the most powerful Jedi, so you could never teach me that. I had to find my path of power on my own, and now that I have it, I realize how pathetic you truly were, Mr. Skywalker. I can't believe that I once thought that you were the most powerful Jedi of all. Darth Khan removed his cloak and revealed his two dark violet lightsabers, one on each hand. The dark violet color was not common among lightsabers at all, but apparently Khan had created a custom set of lightsabers for himself. They were a perfect match for his ego. Luke smiled in a good way. At least they didn't forget the way they called him before. Both of them addressed him properly as Master and Mister, despite how arrogant they had become. Luke, for a weak and pathetic old man, the First Order sure has given me a lot of importance. Don't you think? Your leader sent his best frontline squadron for close combat and the two best lightsaber users of the entire First Order, just to deal with a weak and pathetic old man of the light side. If I didn't know any better, I would say that your leader fears me and he fears the power of the light side as well. All of this looks like a lot of trouble just to deal with a weak old man like me. Ben, I see you haven't lost your sense of humor, Master Luke, even in old age. Soon you will face the power of the dark side and the light won't save you this time. That look on your face is not going to last for long. Ben removed his Kylo Ren mask and dropped it on the ground. He wanted Luke to see his face too. Then he also turned on his red lightsaber. The red and dark violet combination of his lightsaber and Kan's twin lightsabers look pretty powerful. Kan, Mr. Skywalker, you will regret your final words. I won't be as merciful as your father was. Indeed, the almighty Darth Vader won't save you this time, and both you and him have been surpassed by us. Luke smiled again one last time, and he finally turned on his green lightsaber and held it horizontally in front of his face while looking at Ben and Carlo. Shockingly, he had not lost his confidence, and his face's expression was not that of imminent defeat, but that of victory. He began to think about Rey, and he looked at his opponents with great confidence in his eyes. Luke, indeed, my father and I have been surpassed, but not by you. Kylo points at Luke with his T-shaped lightsaber, and Kan gets in a battle stance with his violet lightsabers. Luke simply waits for them to go after him, letting them make the first move. The view goes back to Rey very shortly. Apparently, she had kept the original blue lightsaber she found after Luke gave it back to her, and it was the one she used during her whole training, so the original and powerful lightsaber of Anakin Skywalker was hers now. She grabbed her grandfather's lightsaber as if she was about to use it again. She could sense that her father was in danger, but the time to escape with the light speed jump had arrived. End of Act 4. Act 5. The Force Escape. Carl sees what is about to happen there when the big ship lands and the two Dark Jedis begin to come out with many men following them. It's clear that even if Luke defeats the two Dark Jedis, he will still be killed by the hundreds of men holding lightsabers. There's no escape. Master Luke is going to die. Carl feels the need to stay and join Luke, but he remembers Luke's words about leaving and about how important Rey was to ensure their victory against the First Order. Therefore, Carl orders Finn, Rey, and Chewie to enter the jump to lightspeed before he does it. He wants them to do it before him to ensure that Rey and Finn will be out of there as soon as possible. Carl also wants to make sure that Rey leaves first. However, he's not sure about leaving Luke yet. Finn complains, as always, but ultimately his ship and Rey's ship leave. Then Chewie jumps to light speed as well. Carl looks back at the scene below, and he sees how the two Dark Jedis turn their lightsabers against Luke. Carl feels trouble at first, so he decides to stay and fight with Master Luke, even against his orders. However, before he turns his ship around to go back down, Luke closes his eyes, and Carl's right hand moves forward all of a sudden, pressing the button that launches the light speed jump. Luke, via telepathy, don't look back. The Force will be with you, with Finn, and with Rey, always. You, the new Jedis, are the ones that will stop the First Order. Farewell, my best apprentice. Carl. Master Luke. No! Carl sees Luke turn on his green lightsaber at that exact moment, but his ship jumps into light speed against his will, and he cannot do anything about it. End of Act 5. Act 6. Luke's epic battle and Finn's discovery. The battle between Master Luke and his former apprentices begins. It shows how much Kan, Kylo, and their old master have grown in their use of the Force. For the first half of the battle, Luke is on par with the other two due to his superior mastery of Force lifts and Force pushes. However, the other two are powerful enough now to block and counter Luke's use of the Force on them. They have greatly improved their lightsaber skills as well, so Luke starts to avoid fighting both of them together at the same time. Luke breaks one of Khan's lightsabers, but at the same time fails to land his green lightsaber on him, and Khan lands the first strike on Luke. By then, Khan's face had been fully revealed because of the intensity of the battle. His hood was pushed back and, the whole face was visible. Their Khan looks a lot like Carl, but he has a fiercer look and he's a little younger, which means he's just about 10 years older than Finn and Rey. He was the youngest one that Luke trained back then. He was just a little 7-year-old kid. He was the most ambitious one though. His unquenchable ambition turned him into what he was now. Carl's ship and the other two small ships are billions of miles away from there after the jump. However, Finn is paranoid because Carl had not arrived yet and Rey wasn't answering him at all. Carl arrives, but he isn't feeling great after what happened there. And when he tries it, he can't get a right reply from Rey either. Carl insists and he begins to worry about her. Then Chewbacca answers the communicator and talks in Chewie language. Carl, what is he saying? All of you seem to understand him perfectly at the time, but regardless of how much I tried, I can't tell what is coming out of this tall and hairy monkey's mouth. Finn, oh my god, he says that Rey pressed the emergency pilot ejection button right before the activation for the light speed jump. That means that she was ejected with a parachute, so she's still back there at the island. Her ship came with us, but she was left behind. Carl, what? Are you sure that the monkey isn't trying to fool us? This isn't the time for games or jokes, monkey. You know that, don't you? Carl was a very good guy, but he obviously didn't like Chewie. He simply wasn't the type that could trust big hairy animals. Finn, I'm going back for her. And then Chewie also talks. Carl, what did he say? You guys should have been translators instead of Jedis. Both you and Rey. I don't get a single word of what he said. Finn, he says he's going back for her too, and he's not a monkey, Carl. Carl, whatever. We have to go back now. Remember what Luke said. She's the only one that can be the Dark Master. Things got out of hand so quickly. Carl never expected that Rey would stay behind. Immediately, Carl changed course back to Luke's island and he pressed the button to go back. However, the three small ships were much older than they looked, so their computers deactivated the light speed jump to avoid overheating. They had to wait at least 15 minutes to do it again, whether they liked it or not. At Luke's planet, on the large island, the emergency ignition left Rey quite far from where her father was, but she had landed already and she was on her way to where they left Luke fighting the other two. She begins to run with her blue lightsaber on, but she's still pretty far. Eventually, Kylo Ren lands a slash on Luke's arm, and Luke lands one on Kylo's arm too. However, Khan lands another strike on Luke's leg. It is clear that Luke can't beat them anymore. They both continue fighting against him until Kylo lands one final strike on Luke's lightsaber and Luke falls on the ground and drops the lightsaber. Ben, do you see Luke Skywalker? This is where the light side of the Force takes you. Now you will understand what side of the Force is meant to win at the end. It is the galaxy's destiny, just like falling here was your own. The light side won't save you because it is not the side of the winners. Kylo turns around and begins to walk back to the stairs of their large ship. Khan gets closer to Luke before leaving and he whispers something. Khan, you got one thing right though. They gave you too much importance. They sent hundreds when only sending me would have been enough to take you out. The Supreme Leader may not be as powerful as he seems if he fears you this much. Eventually I will kill him too and become the only leader of the First Order and the Supreme Master of the Force. Goodbye, Mr. Skywalker. Luke, you two have a lot to learn still, Carlo. Neither one of you can be a true master of the Force, even now. You haven't learned what the essence of the Force is. You have only focused on its power and on your personal gains. That will be Ben Solo's downfall and yours as well, Carlos Stryker. Khan became furious because he didn't like his original name and he didn't want to admit that Luke could be partially right. He didn't like seeing that Luke didn't feel defeated either, even in that situation. Out of anger, he gave Luke an unlethal slash with his remaining lightsaber and he broke Luke's lightsaber with his. Then he left. Khan, we're done here. We won. Now do your job, finish him and take his body to the Supreme Leader just as he ordered it. Khan began to walk away towards the ship's entrance and the dozens of men with blue lightsabers ran towards the fallen Luke Skywalker. Kylo and Khan knew this would happen after they defeated Luke, and this was the reason why they chose not to deliver the last lethal strike themselves. However, the unexpected and the inexplicable happened when the mob reached Luke and several blue lightsabers landed on him. His whole body disappeared. They didn't get to see him die, and no one really understood what happened there. They couldn't take the body to Snoke because there was no body on the ground. The men got scared, thinking that Skywalker could be a real ghost, so they quickly attempted to leave. Nonetheless, a group of them still planted and activated a large hydrogen bomb on the ground before they all left, just as the Supreme Leader wanted. They knew that if the ghost didn't kill them, Snoke surely would do it if he found out that they couldn't bring him Skywalker and they couldn't plant the bomb either. The bomb was going to destroy the island and the entire planet in 40 minutes. The giant ship from the First Order left the ground and they began to get ready to leave the planet as well. In 40 minutes, at the moment of the final explosion, the large ship will leave. End of Act 6. Act 7. Return to the island. Rey's ship had left with the others at light speed, but she punched the emergency exit at the last moment and she was left behind with a parachute. The parachute, however, didn't leave her close to Luke's location. By then, she was aware that he was her father, even if neither one of the two had had the courage to say it before they parted ways. She ran and ran non-stop until she arrived at the location of the battle. By then, the Dark Apprentices and the soldiers with lightsabers were gone. The only thing left there were the bomb and Luke's clothes. She sees Luke's clothes with blood on them, and she sees the green lightsaber on the ground, broken in 2 pieces. She also noticed the presence of a big bomb with a 35-minute timer and the First Order's ship in the distance, but she didn't care. Rey, in tears. Why? Why is this happening? Why did it have to be like this? Dad, you were supposed to be the chosen one. You were supposed to be the legend that will save us all, just like you did when you were young. Why didn't you live with us? Why did you stay for this? You knew this was gonna happen. And why? Why did you leave me all alone before? Carl, Finn, Chewie, and Rey's robot finally arrive in their 3 small ships, and they begin to look for Rey from the air. Carl leaves Finn and Chewie and goes straight for the location where they left Master Luke. He fears for the worst, since Luke made it clear that Rey was necessary to achieve their victory against the First Order. Carl knew that she was strong with the Force, but he didn't think that she and Luke could beat that entire battalion and the 2 Dark Jedis on their own. The First Order's ship is ready to leave, but Dark Khan senses someone that he had not sensed in a very long time, so he stops the ship. It's Carl, his brother, and the one who used to be Luke's top apprentice back then. Dark Khan gets a small 1-person ship and he leaves on his own. Before he does, he tells Kylo Ren that he will deal with the last real threat for the organization. He orders Kylo to wait for him there and to stay on board. He talks to Ben as if he was talking to an officer below his command. Ben doesn't like this. He doesn't like seeing himself as number 3 after Dark Khan. He also knows that Khan is going after Carl because he sends him too. Then, Ben sees this as his opportunity to eliminate both Carl and Kylo at the same time. Regardless of who wins, Kylo plans to leave the victor in the planet to die with the hydrogen bomb. To ensure this, Ben has some sort of plan, but that is not fully revealed to us until later. We only see that he places some sort of mini tracker on Khan's 1-person ship, and Khan fails to notice that. Khan enters the small planet's atmosphere again, and he quickly gets 3 unknown ships in his radar. He figures out that they must be Luke's new apprentices because one of them can be sensed clearly through the Force. Obviously, he knows that the one he senses is Carl. He goes after Carl's ship right away when Carl spots Rey from the sky, not far from Luke's former location. Chewie and Finn try to stop the Dark Jedi, but Khan easily lands 1 shot on Chewie's ship and 1 on Finn's ship without getting hit by any of their shots. He seems to be as good of a pilot as Poe. Then, Finn and Chewie are forced to land, but their ships are not destroyed. Khan goes straight for Carl, and Carl avoids him twice, something that neither Finn nor Chewie could even try. However, Khan quickly lands a shot on Carl's ship as well, forcing him to crash land on the nearest place that could give him a safe landing. Carl lands very close to the edge of the tallest and largest cliff on the island, which looks like a thin isosceles triangle with legs that tower over a rocky abyss above the dark-looking sea below. Needless to say, falling down from there will be very deadly. Khan's ship lands on the other side of the cliff, meaning that Carl can escape from the cliff without facing him first. Then Khan exits his ship, and Carl senses someone that he had not seen in a very, very long time. Kylo Ren spots Rey from the First Order's ship. He looks very intrigued because he thought that he was sensing Carl first, but it was her, meaning that she was even more powerful than before. Kylo, I see. She came back for him. Then, that means that she has to be that little girl from back then. It's her. I can feel it. She's Master Luke's daughter, and that means that Khan must have failed his mission to kill them all back then. He was just too young for the task. Everything makes more sense now. It's too bad that you didn't want to join me on the dark side when I gave you the chance, Rey. Now, you will end up just like him, instead of being a winner by my side. How pitiful the light side of the Force is. I made the right choice, grandfather. I chose the side of the conquerors and the emperors. I chose the side of the ones that rule the galaxy. The large ship is ready to leave right outside of the small planet, but Kylo chooses to keep waiting until the hydrogen bomb explodes. He wants to see it all from the big ship with his own eyes. Then he will leave, knowing that his full victory was sealed. He expects that Dark Khan will take care of Carl, Rey, and Finn before the bomb explodes, but he ensured that Khan will not be able to get out of there in time. He just wants to see it happen. He wants to be sure. End of Act 7. Act 8. The New Jedis versus Dark Khan. The battle of the two Jedi Knights is about to begin on the cliff. The bomb has 15 minutes left. Khan, I have waited for this. Back then, you and Ben were the most powerful ones in our group, without a doubt. And you continue your training on your own. So I am certain that you are the only real threat left for us now. Out of all the trainees, you knew me best. You knew how I was and what I was capable of. I wasn't very strong back then, though. You, Skywalker, and Ben were the powerful ones. But things have changed. My full potential was fulfilled with the dark side of the Force. This will be your last battle, unless you choose to join the First Order and the dark side under my command. Will you join me, or will you face death? What do you choose to do, Carl? Carl, as he turns on his blue lightsaber, you already know my choice. You and Ben betrayed everyone and helped Snoke to destroy the new Jedi Order that Luke was trying to build. You brought the death and the destruction of many innocent families, including Master Luke's family and our own parents. Then, you joined Snoke to give rise to the First Order and its madness. And now you come back as one of its leaders, and you kill the master that first taught us how to hold a lightsaber. I will never forgive you, Carlo. You will pay for what you did to everyone. Carlo removes his full cloak and the other vest around his arms for the first time, revealing that he has 2 golden pieces of armor on his elbows. He has a high physical resemblance to Carl, although the look on his eyes feels evil and self-centered. From the backside of his armored elbows, 2 dark violet lightsabers come out. They come out at a diagonal angle that will make it possible for him to swing his arms and elbows in almost every direction without hitting himself with those lightsabers. Khan also turns on the remaining lightsaber that he had after the battle with Luke. Essentially, getting hit by any elbow strike from him was equal to instant death or a major injury, since he had lightsabers coming out from his elbows. Khan, I have never lost any battle that I fought like this, and I rarely use it because at my level I don't need it to win. However, you're not an average opponent, brother. Consider this my acknowledgement of your potential. Now, show me what the prodigy of our young group from back then learned from the light side of the Force, and I will show you what the dark side has taught me. Carl has a pretty difficult lightsaber duel with Khan, since he had to avoid elbow attacks as if he was fighting 2 other dark Jedis at the same time. But all 3 violet lightsabers are coming from the same opponent. This is easily the best lightsaber battle of the series so far, with a 10-minute countdown for total destruction, a formidable look for the Dark Jedi, everything at risk, and death closer than ever, since they are standing on an incredibly high cliff with a dark ocean below on each side. This duel also shows us that Dark Khan didn't use his full power against Luke. Carl and Ken are almost equals at first, even though Carl has to move much more just to avoid getting hit. Soon, it is undeniable that Ken is a better fighter, not just because of power, but because of the Jedi arsenal that he created for himself. He also knew how to kick really well. His kicks were as deadly as Darth Maul's kicks, making him a major threat, even without using the other abilities of the dark side of the Force. In the beginning, we see how good Carl really is, since even with all his disadvantages, Ken couldn't touch him. However, Ken's advantages grow as the battle goes on. More than once, Carl almost falls down from the cliff, but his sense of the Force saves him. After 3 minutes, Ken lands the first strike on one of Carl's legs, and soon after that, he lands the second one on the other leg, with a very sudden spinning move that used one of his elbows and its lightsaber at the end. Carl realizes that he won't be able to defeat him with such disadvantages. It's only a matter of time before he loses, so he takes a very risky chance to finish Ken in one shot. Carl uses the Force push to send his lightsaber spinning on the air, at a moment where Ken was sideways and his elbows' armors were in the open. The flying blue lightsaber cut through one of the elbows and damaged the armor in the other one. Then, one of the two violet lightsabers from the elbows turned itself off. However, Ken also used his Force push, and he cut Carl's lightsaber in half using the other lightsaber on his other elbow. Ken, you won't be able to win now. Let me show you how it's done. This is how a spinning lightsaber is handled by a true master of the Force. Ken does the same thing with his own lightsaber and makes it strike Carl on one shoulder first, from the front, and then on the back. When Carl tries to grab it using his Force pull, Ken's Force pull is stronger than his, and the violet lightsaber goes back to Ken's hand in one piece. Ken used the Force push on Carl, putting him on the edge of the cliff, and he forced him to bend down. Carl did his best to avoid falling from the edge, but it didn't seem like he would be able to avoid it for much longer. Ken walked up to him, and after turning off the lightsaber on his hand, but not the one on his other elbow, he struck the fallen Carl with his elbow at an angle where it would clearly touch his spine. Then, he lifted Carl using the Force and moved him away from the edge, forcing him to face the abyss and the dark sea below him. Carl will fall in the abyss towards the dark sea if Ken stopped holding him. Ken, do you understand now? The dark side is superior. It is the true power of the Force. You were the best back then, yet you had no chance against me now. After this, you won't be able to walk again, but I will continue my conquest with the First Order. This is the true power of the Force. Carl, others will do the walking for me. You'll never understand the light side of the Force. The dark side is a self-serving path that destroys the surroundings and corrupts the people in order to raise the master. The light side is about the whole, not about you. It's about everyone. It's a path that nurtures and uplifts the surroundings and the people to raise the master as well. Your path brings destruction and mine brings harmony. This is what Master Luke taught us, but you and Ben were not capable of seeing it. Ken, oh brother, Skywalker has influenced you too much with his idiotic philosophies. I see nothing of your people and your harmony here. What I perceive are my armies and my victories. This is the end. Your end, of course. This planet will be destroyed by a high-scale bomb very soon, and the few survivors of your resistance are going to fall too. So this will be your last choice. Join me and the First Order, or die here. What do you choose? Carl, you already know my answer, Carlo. I would rather die as a Jedi Knight than join the side that destroys the little harmony that we have left in the galaxy. Can. So let it be then. I gave you one more chance to join the winning side, but you made your choice. When Khan was going to let go of Carl, a ship came by and two people jumped out of it. They didn't even wait for a landing. These people obviously had to be Jedis. They jumped and landed so perfectly and with such expertise that even Olympic gymnasts would be envious of them. Rey and Finn landed right behind Khan with their lightsabers ready for battle. Both had the lightsabers and the skills that Luke and Carl helped them to gain during their dedicated training. Khan barely had any time to move or think, even though he sensed their arrival a couple of seconds before it happened. One of them felt even stronger with the Force than Carl, and that fact shocked the Dark Jedi. In a fraction of a second, Dark Khan opened his hands to let Carl fall. He turned around, and he brought his violet lightsaber to his hand and turned it on. And with no time left, it blocked a direct hit from Rey's lightsaber. He had not been able to sense her fast enough. He almost missed. And there, when he blocked her, Finn destroyed his other elbow lightsaber and landed a major lightsaber strike on him, which is something that Carl had not been able to do during the entire battle. What happened was that Rey's attack was way too fast for him, so Dark Khan only had time to sense and block her, and he was left wide open for Finn's attacks. He had no time to think about him. Meanwhile, Rey also pulled Carl towards the edge using the Force, and he was able to land on the border, so he didn't fall down from the cliff. And all of this happened simultaneously while she was blocking Dark Khan's lightsaber with hers. Clearly, her skills had improved tremendously. Khan could barely move after getting struck so badly by Finn's lightsaber. So he tried to push Rey and Finn beyond the border using his most powerful ability. He used the electrical energy of the dark side of the Force to overcome them and push them towards the edge. Then, Rey got into his mind and she saw that he was the one that left Luke defeated on the ground. And he was the one that lied about her death as a baby, making Luke think that she was dead, even though she had been saved by a good Samaritan that wasn't part of the Skywalker family. Rey could finally see the truth about her past in this guy's mind. She and Luke lost everything they had and everyone because of what Dark Khan and the other Knights of Ren did. And all of that was because Khan and the other Dark Knights wanted to destroy Skywalker and his new Jedi Order to ensure the success of their First Order. Then, Rey did the unexpected. She blocked Khan's dark energy and her Force push overpowered his, pushing him beyond the border instead. Basically, she was the one that defeated him after seeing the truth about her past in his mind. Right away, Finn and Rey grabbed Carl and they hurried towards the small ship that arrived there. Rey's white and orange robot was already attached to the back of the ship and Chewie was sitting in one of the two seats available. They had fixed the moderate damage that Khan's shot caused on Chewie's ship. The robot maneuvered the ship to pick up Rey and Finn, and then Chewie picked up Carl, who couldn't even stand after the battle, and he sat Carl with him on the same chair. Finn had to sit on the same chair as Rey in the front. It was a really small ship, but they had no choice. There was a huge bump with a timer on the island, so they had to make everyone fit there to escape. The bomb had just 2 minutes left. Chewie sat Carl with him. Carl needed urgent medical attention, but he was still alive. Carl, hairy monkey, I never thought I was going to be so happy to see your hairy face in my life, and to hear you talk like a little cow again. Please, save me, but don't hug me. You know how I am. Chewie hugs Carl anyways, and he moves like a little cow anyways, as he always did. Rey jumped into the front seat and began to prepare the ship to leave fast. Finn also jumped into the front seat and sat behind Rey, but he wasn't sitting down. He was worried about how they were going to fit there and where she was going to land. Rey, what the hell are you waiting for? The bomb is about to explode. Sit down. Finn, are you sure that you don't want me to go in front? That would be better, Rey. Rey, hey, we don't have time for this nonsense now. You don't know how to pilot this thing fast, so I have to go in front. Just sit your butt down, Finn, unless you want the top door to cut your head off when I close it. Finn, okay. Just try not to vomit on my face. We're too close here, Rey. And yeah, be careful about not crushing my you-know-what. When this thing jumps into light speed, these seats were not made for 2 people, Rey. Rey, Finn, shut up. Sit down and let me handle this. The bomb will explode in 1 minute. Your crotch is not going to explode if I sit on it, so just sit on the chair and stop worrying. Miraculously, they do make it. All of them in the same small ship. And Finn's you-know-what doesn't get crushed either. No worries there. End of Act 8. Act 9. Final act of the movie, of the alternate movie, of course. Outcomes for the dark side and the light side. A shocking moment for the audience takes place. Dark Khan didn't fall down from the cliff. He didn't end up on the dark sea below. He used the force to grab a big rock from the vertical mountain on his way down. He was badly injured by Finn, but he had survived. Unbelievable. He pressed a button he had on his belt, and using voice commands remotely, he turned on his small ship and he brought it right to the spot where he was holding that rock, halfway down the abyss. He was starting to feel very victorious again. Khan, the light side wasn't strong enough to defeat me. Carl and the other 2 new Jedis couldn't kill me. I will see them again soon, and their threat to my empire will be over in the blink of an eye. Then the ship's front door opened, and Khan noticed that there was a small mini bomb with a countdown on the side of the door that opened there. It had just 5 seconds left, which was the same amount of time that the big bomb on the island had left. In that desperate moment, Khan remembered that Kylo's hand had touched the same location before, but he failed to notice that something was left there by Ben Solo. Right there, before his death, Carlos Stryker finally understood a little of what Carl said. He also understood things that Master Luke used to mention. Carl's friends came to rescue him. They were young apprentices that had surely learned a lot from him. They were part of his harmony and of the harmony of the light side. They were people that cherished him and cared about him. They were people that also cared about others as well. Meanwhile, Khan's supposed old friend and ally from the dark side, Kylo Ren, planned his death. There was great power in the dark side of the Force, but no harmony, no real friends, and no gratitude for anything. The dark side was a world where the wolves would use and betray each other gladly. Greater power for the Top Master and global destruction were the only guarantees in the dark side. After Dark Khan or Carlos Stryker had that epiphany, both bombs exploded. He died instantly because the door to his chip and Ben's mini bomb were in front of his face. And then the Iceland's complete destruction followed, and the small planet's demise came right after. The large hydrogen bomb was a catastrophe. Its wave of destruction didn't stop until it consumed the entire small planet. Kylo Ren watched that end from the safety of his large ship outside of the planet and without his mask. He also noticed how a little chip jumped out of the planet into light speed, and he knew that Rey, Finn, and Carl were inside that chip. He also knew that he was the second leader of the First Order now. Carlos Stryker was going to be just a memory. After seeing that, Ben and the large ship left to give Snoke the news about Luke Skywalker's death and Dark Khan's failure at defeating the new Jedis. Ben was obviously planning to take out Snoke to become the Supreme Leader. His lie about Khan's death only made it more clear. And Snoke probably knew about it, but he wasn't worried about that. After all, he had been using Khan and Kylo from the very beginning. He also had his own plans that didn't include Ben or Kylo. At the end of the day, there were no friends in the dark side. Meanwhile, our heroes arrived safely at the Resistance's new hideout, and Carl was taken to the medics right away. Leia also got the news about Luke's death and learned about what happened in his planet. Luckily, Luke shared a great plan with her before he left them. Beating the First Order didn't seem impossible anymore, even if Leia knew that their probabilities of success were not the best. Days later, we see Rey, Finn, and Carl at the Resistance's small hideout at this new planet. The new Jedis were looking at the sky outside the hideout. Carl knew that he couldn't lead the Jedi assault against Snoke anymore. He was on a levitating thing that looked like a wheelchair. It was likely that he was never going to walk again. However, Rey and Finn were there too, and they were Jedis now. They were the ones that would have to lead the Jedi assault for the light side of the Force. Everything was up to them now. End of Act 9 and end of the new Jedis. Okay, so that's it for the reading. This was a pretty long reading. I thought I was going to do it like in 5 minutes, and it took me much longer. I hope you had a lot of fun with this as I did. And make sure that you get to read my other stories. Also, let me know what you think in the comments. Is this a better story than the original one in The Last Jedi? Would you have liked to see this one act out by the actors? If you loved it, make sure that you share it with any other Star Wars fan that you know. Next, I'm going to do the reading for the story The River and the Mountain, which is an original philosophical story that I did, which is going to inspire us very much. And after that, I will share Volume 1 of the Matrix Revelations, which is basically it's a fourth movie for the Matrix saga. And just to let you know, that one is much better and much longer than this alternate Star Wars story. It's basically a book So if I read it here, it will be an audiobook for a really good fourth Matrix movie. And what's even better is that we don't have a real sequel for the Matrix Revolutions yet. So this story that I already wrote, but that I have to edit the whole thing, and I want to record it and share it here as well. And the volume 2 story that I'm planning for that right now will be a blast of epicness for the fans of the Matrix and for anyone that likes good science fiction, because I figured out how to extend the story with sequels that are even better than the first Matrix movie and that fit very well and that use the original actors. And they are great. They are great. The volume 1 story is already done, so I can just edit that one and read it here like I did with this one. The volume 2 one, I'm not done with it, but I plan to do the same with it. And volume 2 one will be like the fifth and final movie, basically. The volume 1 will be the fourth movie, which is a sequel to the Matrix Revolutions. So yeah, let me know if you like my way of reading stories. This is the very first one. I am not trained at this yet. I don't consider this being well trained yet. After I read 100 pages, or not 100 pages, 2,000 pages, I can consider myself well trained to do an audiobook. I am not at that stage yet. So if you liked it, let me know about it so that I will be more motivated to read more for you. I hope you enjoyed my alternate story for Star Wars VIII. Like I said, I came up with this a long time when we didn't even know that The Last Jedi was going to be called The Last Jedi. I liked it a lot. I still like it a lot, but more than the actual one. And yeah, that's what I shared it with you. So I hope you liked it. And I wish you all a very nice day.